Hi and welcome to the channel Ginger Ninja's Movie Reviews. I'm the Ginger Ninja and these are my movie reviews. Now we're actually here with a very special movie review. Very recently I was given the opportunity to review a screener of A Night of the Undead, also known as A Night of the Living Dead. Now this did come out to a limited release last year in 2022 from directors Kenny Scott Guffey, Jake C. Young, writer Tyler Aucoin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing Tyler's surname correctly, forgive me if I'm not. And he's the one that did provide me with the opportunity to review this film. The movie stars Denny Kidd, Brianna Phipps, Mason Johnson, Mackenzie Clay, David Daring, and many others. Now, as I mentioned, I was given the opportunity to watch a screener of this film, and being a huge fan of the original Dead series, from the master himself, George A Romero, I was looking forward to seeing what these guys had done. Now, I'm going to start out by saying this is a low budget film. It's not a blockbuster, but I feel there was passion behind this. It was a great idea, and it does come through. So going into this with that knowledge, I had a good idea of what to expect. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the acting. The acting is a bit hit and miss. So there is some good acting, but there's also some not so good acting. It's not terrible, mind you, but just some of it's a bit bland. There's no passion behind it, there's no emotion behind it, but then on the other side, some of it's overacted. So it like I said, it's hit and miss. It's not terrible, it's not great either, but it's what you come to expect from a lower budget film. And like I said, I've seen a lot of low budget films. This isn't that bad. The acting is pretty good. The story. Now this is one thing I really did like. Look, one of my favourite films is Return of the Living Dead. And this is somewhat reminiscent of that. In Return of the Living Dead, the Night of the Living Dead is a true event. It really did happen. That's the same premise with this. Night of the Living Dead is a true event. It did happen, and that's why these podcasters are out investigating what actually happened. So I thought that was a really interesting premise. There's some really good, solid character development to begin with. To start with, you've got the podcasters, and you kind of do like them. They seem normal. There's nothing, they've had relationships, they're friends. So it's something a lot of people I'm sure can relate to. I did enjoy that. The reasoning behind the outbreak I felt wasn't fully explored. It was hinted at, there were images that came across on the screen, but there was nothing actually stated as to what caused it. Again, that's very similar to the original Night of the Living Dead. There was no actual explanation, it just happened. And the only other thing, the premise of the film doesn't hold to the pacing of it. In the original, and even in the 1990 remake, there's a sense of urgency behind what is happening. This one doesn't have that same sense of urgency, the boarding up of the house, the farmhouse, etc. That's what was missing from it for me. Now, the filming and the editing as well. Like I said, being a low-budget film, you go into it and you know what to expect. Now, this might be due to it being a screener version, not 100% sure, but time will tell. The hue or the saturation was so bright, and that's through the majority of the film. Through the start of it, there were some scenes where they're looking at a conspiracy theorist guy from November 20th, 1992. That looked, colour-wise, that looked fine. Other scenes with the president who was put into there looked fine. The rest of it with the farmhouse, the podcasters looked washed out, and just that saturation was so bright, the hue was so bright, it made everything seem just washed out completely. Now, there also seemed to be some sort of filter on the camera where the edges were darkened. And look, like I said, all this could be due to it being a screener. Time will tell. There is one part about 30 odd minutes into the film where you do hear the director say cut, which wasn't edited out. And there's a slight continuity gap where the cigarette's in one hand and then in the other. So now, like I said, this could be due to it all being a screener. Not going to hold that against it, but time will tell. The effects. Little special effects, but the ones it used are mainly to make the eyes seem more sunken in with a zombie effect. And they were done well. And it was probably helped by the way it was filmed, the hue and saturation of it probably helped it look a little bit better. It's hard to say, but if the movie was in full colour, it may not have looked as good. Once again, time will tell. Overall, I did enjoy this film. I thought it was written well. It was, had some good scenes in it. Directing was fine. I do think, and like I said, I'm not going to hold it against it, but that hue, that saturation being so bright, whether that's a screen thing, whether it's not, I won't hold it against it. But I did enjoy this film. The pacing is what threw it out for me. If the movie were paced a little better, definitely would have grabbed me more. It would have held me in. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give this film 6.5 out of 10. So there you have it. That is my review of A Night of the Undead. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to review your film, Tyler. It was much appreciated, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from you and the rest of the cast and crew in the future. So thank you very much. Have a great day.